Until recently, the war narrative on Gaza has been largely controlled by the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, and the country's Ministry of Defense. Despite Israel's international reputation taking a hit with the killing of over 20,000 Palestinians, the injury of more than 50,000 and extensive destruction in Gaza, the IDF could still present a plausible narrative of a severely weakened Hamas. They even claimed that the war in northern Gaza was largely complete, and success in southern Gaza would follow shortly. However, a different picture began to emerge as evidence failed to support the IDF's claim of a Hamas headquarters under Al-Shifa hospital. Additionally, the IDF struggled to locate Israeli hostages, despite possessing some of the world's most advanced intelligence. Recent incidents further challenged the narrative. On December 12th, Hamas paramilitaries executed a skillful triple ambush in an area of Gaza supposedly under Israeli control. An IDF unit was ambushed, suffering casualties. When additional troops were sent to assist, they too were ambushed, including reinforcements. Notably, 10 IDF soldiers were reported killed, including a colonel and 3 majors from the elite Golani Brigade. This operation by Hamas in a district reportedly under IDF control raises doubts about Israel's substantial progress in the war. Another incident involved 3 Israeli hostages who managed to escape from their captors, only to be killed by IDF soldiers despite being shirtless and carrying a white flag. Adding to the controversy is the revelation that calls from the hostages were intercepted by an audio-equipped IDF search dog 5 days before they were killed, causing considerable anger in Israel. Wider indications of the IDF's challenges include official casualty figures reporting more than 460 military personnel killed and about 1,900 wounded in Gaza, Israel, and the occupied West Bank. However, alternative sources suggest much higher numbers of wounded. Yedioth Ahronoth, Israel's leading daily, published information from the Ministry of Defense's Rehabilitation Department indicating that over 2,000 IDF soldiers had been registered as disabled since the conflict began. The Times of Israel reported the number of injured IDF soldiers, Israel police and other security forces as 6,125. Friendly fire casualties were also reported, with 20 out of 105 deaths attributed to such incidents. Despite following the well-rehearsed Dahiya doctrine of using massive force in responding to irregular war, causing extensive social and economic damage, and undermining the will of insurgents to fight, the IDF faces criticism from unexpected quarters. Even the Biden administration is becoming uneasy at the unfolding events. Nonetheless, Benjamin Netanyahu and the War Cabinet are determined to continue the conflict. The root cause of this determination lies in the October 7th attacks, which deeply shook Israel's assumption of security. The majority of Israeli Jews continue to support Netanyahu's response, although this support is fraying, exacerbated by the killing of the 3 hostages by IDF troops. Consequently, IDF commanders are under immense pressure to succeed and will go as far as the War Cabinet allows. Many of these commanders, typically single-minded individuals, now realize that despite Netanyahu's rhetoric, Hamas, or at least Hamas's ideas, cannot be defeated by military force. Hamas embodies an ideology that will be even harder to eliminate. The idea behind mukawama, or resistance, is that the way to defeat Israel, and for that matter the United States, is through persistent military force, a credo also embraced by Hezbollah and Iran. Should Israel devastate Hamas, but a strong new organization with the same mindset take its place, Israel will only have replaced one foe with another. The ideology of resistance is popular among Palestinians, and October 7th has made it even more so. Hamas deeply hurt Israel, which many Palestinians, humiliated by decades of occupation, regard with glee. Israel's destructive military campaign, with its large civilian death toll, has further angered Palestinians, and Hamas's seizure of hostages has forced Israel to release some detained Palestinians, a goal that past negotiations by moderate Palestinians were unable to achieve. A poll conducted in late November and early December by the Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey Research found that 82% of Palestinians in the West Bank support the attack. Eventually, Palestinians may look at the destruction in Gaza and conclude that violent resistance makes their lives worse, and polls show that there is less support for October 7th in Gaza, which is paying the price of Hamas's brutality. But so far, support for Hamas has grown. They are aware that talks are stalling, and pressure from hostage families may result in another humanitarian pause. Therefore, their aim is to damage Hamas as much as possible, as quickly as possible, regardless of the cost to Palestinians evident in the intense air raids this week. What enables this approach is Netanyahu's dependence on an extremist minority of religious fundamentalists and trenchant Zionists in his government. Without the tragedy of October 7th, these extremists would not have the same level of support in Israel. However, their actions are increasingly damaging Israel's long-term security, risking it becoming a pariah state even among allies and fueling radical opposition from a reconstituted Hamas or its successor. Israel needs saving from itself, and this depends more than anything on Joe Biden and those around him. Perhaps pushed by the rapidly changing public mood in Western Europe, they must recognize their role in bringing an immediate end to this conflict. Israel can live with fraying European ties and growing criticism from Arab states, but losing American support would be an altogether different matter. On top of the more than $3 billion Israel receives from the United States in military aid every year, Congress and the White House are now considering a package that would provide a $14 billion supplement. Israel also depends on the United States for munitions, which it needs in Gaza, and would need far more of in a war in Lebanon. The United States also regularly provides cover for Israel at the United Nations, for instance, vetoing a recent Security Council resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. But many Israeli leaders worry that American support may not last forever, and those who don't harbor that fear should. Biden's own party is increasingly split over Israel's conduct in the war. The president himself has now criticized indiscriminate bombing in Gaza, and officials in his administration are pressing for an end to major military operations. All of Israel's goals are difficult to achieve, and some are at cross purposes.